Hello. So apparently this is all working. I've just spent like an hour gluing everything back together. So you'll have to bear with me. I do apologize, everyone. How is everybody? Ooh! There should be a chat appearing over on the right hand side of the screen over in that direction. I'm really terrible at like directions and stuff because I flipped my video because I'm weird like that. But there we go. Okay, so who am I? What am I doing? I am Jamie Gabrogman Taylor. I'm just going to open this screen here so we can see what I'm doing. This is me and this is my GitHub and this is the things that I do. So let me just click here and show you the overview of my GitHub. Like I said, I work on 3 separate podcasts. I'm just going to click those links there, and we'll get those links loaded. I've not plugged my keyboard in because I am a wally. So let's get that started. Right, can you tell I've got that energy today? Right, so we've got 3 separate podcasts. So we've got the Modern.NET Show. This is the one that I do exclusively. We have episodes about .NET and .NET related things that are about modern.NET, formerly known as the .NET Core Podcast. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this screen. Should be looking at you all. I do apologize. We've also got oh, right. Okay. I'm not going to show you that. So that's Times and Spaces. The URL has expired because we've kind of walked away from it for a little bit. So I'm going to go change that. So I apologize for that, everyone. But yes, the other show that I work on is Waffling Tailors, which is about video games, where we talk to all of our friends who do stuff like the Resident Evil 2 remake. We've got a bot that helps us called Delilah. Actually, we've got 2 bots that help us. We got our hosts, Delilah. If I can spell it correctly. That's Delilah. Actually, I should have just clicked through. Right, so we've got Delilah who helps us out. And we've got... Oh, Russell isn't listed. I will list Russell in a moment. Where are we? Russell is down here. And we also have Russell who helps us out, which has the broken image and is the real brains of the outfit. Russell and Delilah help us to actually create the episodes and the artwork and all of that stuff. But the main work for each episode is actually performed by Squidge, who is my literal brother. He is the greatest host of a podcast ever. You should all say hello. Hello, Squidgy. And this is his page here, wafflingtailors.rocks hosts Squidge, and you'll find out all about him and see all the episodes that he's been on because he's awesome. Anyway, Right, so back to it. Who am I? What am I doing? I am Jamie Gabrogman Taylor, and I am going to be building some software. Now, what software am I building? Let's go to the repositories tab and I'll show you. So we're actually going to create something that I've wanted to do for ages. Now, I am a podcaster. I spend a lot of time in front of this mic talking to people. I apologize. For some reason, OBS doesn't pick this mic up correctly, but all my other apps do, so there you go. By the way, we're listening to some music down here near where the mouse pointer is. It's over there on the left of the mouse pointer, over there on the right of the mouse pointer. This is created by the Chill Hop Music Collective. You should definitely check those folks out. I've got my keyboard plugged in. That's fine. Just go to chillhop.com, which we'll do now. Right. We're actually listening to the Spring Essentials. So definitely go get this. I get these albums 4 times a year, right? They have an Essentials collection 4 times a year, 1 for every season, and this is the kind of stuff that I use whenever I'm trying to chill out and study or get some deep work done. So these are definitely worth getting. They're on like YouTube and Spotify and Bandcamp and stuff. Best one for me is Bandcamp because you could just buy it outright, and they're usually pretty. Look, the entire album is €1, right? So it ain't gonna cost you a lot of money for. Where are we? What is it? It's 28 tracks, and they're all about 3-4 minutes long. €1 is nothing, so I'm sure you could probably stretch to that. So definitely go check that out. I'm a big fan of these folks. So there you go. You might be wondering behind me what's going on. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to build an app that we're not going to build it all in one stream, but we're going to build the beginnings of it. I'm going to be using Rider just because I find that easier to use than C# DevKit, but C# DevKit is also pretty dang cool. I'm going to make sure I've got it installed. Where are we? C#, so I'm going to get rid of that one actually. We don't want that one. I had a problem with this the other day. If you have, so I found, oh, okay, that's fine. So I found that if I had the C# DevKit and the C# one installed at the same time, there was issues, but I think the C# DevKit pulls the C# one in these days, so we're all good, right? So that is pretty cool. C# DevKit allows you to open a project and shows you a project explorer, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that in a moment. But anyway, we've got this. I'll talk about what's behind me over there in a minute. But let's get started with the actual stuff that we're going to do. So I want to build let's talk about this. I want to build an app that I can issue from the command line. So I can go terminal, I can go like podcast, and so like create, right? I want to be able to go podcast, create, and then hit return, and it does some stuff. I want to do podcast, publish, and it does some stuff. I want to do podcast, what are we, like zip, and it does some stuff, right? That's the idea. So I'm going to close this for now. I am on Fedora for anyone who's interested. I don't know why. I just thought I'd try it out. So I've already gone ahead and written up all of my original notes from when I was struck by narrativium, which if you don't know what narrativium is, that means you've not read any Terry Pratchett. You kind of need to go fix that. But anyway, yeah, narrativium is this idea that that ideas are based on on an atom called narrativium, and it's like narrative causality, and like whenever you think of something, you're struck by narrativium. So definitely go read that out. But the idea is I want a .NET-podcast global tool. So let's talk about what a global tool is. So .NET global tool. Before we continue, what is a .NET Global Tool? I will talk about how we install it in a moment, but let's have a look at .NET Global Tools. Let's see. So they are essentially, that's probably not the right thing to read. Let's go to the Global Tools. So .NET Global Tools are things like, if I can open the terminal and spell it correctly, I should really leave this open anyway. Let's zoom in. Can we zoom in? We can't. I'm going to have to faff with the settings. All right. No, there we go. Excellent. Right, 100%. There we go. So .NET New is technically a global tool, right? But it's just installed with the .NET ending on it, right? You can see I've got Blazor, class library, and console library. I'll bring this out so you can actually see it without my face. So it's kind of those things, right? I've got one called Converter, which I use to convert media from one format to another. So I wonder if I've installed it. I have not. Okay, that's cool. I will go install it in a moment and I will show you how that all works. The idea is it's a .NET console app that you can install globally to be run from your path, which is really, I think, pretty cool. But before I can do any of that, right, this is how to install it. We'll talk about creating one in a moment, right? Before we can do that, we need to go ahead and get .NET. So what I've done here in this browser I've gone to get.net. So I've gone to, I'll put it over here, get.net, which is, I think, the silliest URL ever. Anyway, when you go to get.net, it will actually redirect you to .net.microsoft.com/download, right? So it will actually redirect you to that. Hopefully you can see that, everyone. .net.microsoft.com/download, right? And then you just literally, because I'm on a Linux distribution, there's a button, click that to install it, or you can get all the different versions. You can say, hey, I want .NET 7. You can actually see the release cycle here. So .NET 6 is currently long-term support, will run out of support this year. So this year, folks, November 12th. .NET 7, May 14th of this year. So the idea is the odd numbered releases are meant to be short-term releases to get you to try out the new stuff. The even numbered releases are designed to to have 3 years of support. So .NET 6 came out a number of years ago. Let's have a look. Let's just double check my numbers here. So this says short-term support may have shorter support, 18 months. Short-term if you want to try the latest features. If we hover on this one, long-term support has extended support period of 3 years. So these are the versions you want to jump on. So if you want to start something new and run something for a long time, use an even-numbered version of .NET. If you want to try the latest preview bits, the newest things that are coming in the next long-term support release, use an odd numbered version. You can even see, look, .NET 9 is already available with the last release date, the latest release date, set just like a week ago as we are streaming this, right? So the latest preview came out last week. That has definitely got a short-term release. So if you want to play with .NET 9, you could just go ahead and click that button there and it will tell you how to install it. When you install it, you need to install two things. If you install the SDK, it will take care of everything. If you just want to run the apps, you need to install the runtime. So just a brief thing about how to do this. If you want to build apps, you want the SDK. If you just want to run apps, you want the runtime. So there's two downloads. You really only need one or the other. If you're building stuff, just install the SDK. If you're going to run stuff, install one of the runtimes. I always just install the SDK because it is easier to manage. So there you go. One thing to note is that if you're installing .NET 8 and you're on one of the Debian based releases, specifically like Ubuntu or something like that, you may need to follow specific instructions to install it. But for me, I am on a Fedora, so I went to install.net on Linux, I clicked manual install, I clicked Fedora, and it's like, hey, just literally, where are we? It tells you all the different versions that are supported. That's fine, but how do we install it? Installing.net is a single line. Sudo dnf install.net SDK, right? So it's super simple. And once you've got it installed, you can actually check that by going .net-list-SDKs. So the quickest way to check is to do .net. That will actually run the .net runner, I guess, the SDK. And then you can see here we can do list SDKs and list runtime. So .net-list-SDKs. That tells me I've got version 6, 7, and 8 installed. That's a new thing for modern .net that started with .net Core way back when. You can do side-by-side installs without actually breaking anything. .net Framework was harder to do, but they kind of could do that. The other thing that I can do is I can do .net-list runtimes. Okay, so that will show me I've got the ASP.NET Core runtime for 6, 7, and 8, and I've got the .NET Core app runtime for 6, 7, and 8. So there's two different runtimes. The ASP.NET Core, which is the web stuff. So if you're doing web stuff, Blazor, minimal APIs, MVC, that kind of thing, websites, that's the ASP.NET Core. If you're doing console apps, that's .NET Core. It's a bit shame that they're still calling it .NET Core because they sort of dropped that, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. Oh, hey, we got some chat. Let me move this out of the way. Oh no. Okay, so we're gonna ignore that message. That's a flyby seller of some stuff. I don't actually have Twitch open anywhere, so I can't actually get rid of that. So I'm gonna have to just rely on people saying stuff. So if you're watching live, put something in the chat, like Team Live or something, let me know. And if you're watching this on YouTube later on, put something in the comments about how you're watching on Team On Demand or something. Anyway, so we've got .NET installed, that's totally fine. So that's fine, I'm going to close this window now, we don't need that. I like to clean up as I go. Right, let's put this window down here. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to write a global tool. Now a global tool is just a command line app. Right, so if you've used, let me move this out of the way. If you've used any of the .NET tools before, you can do .NET New. That's a console app that shows you all the templates that are installed. Fantastic, not a problem. Okay, so we can do that. Right, what I want is a number of verbs and a number of actions or options or something like that. Right, these were just my initial ideas and I've written them all down. So I want to be able to do podcast create, podcast prepare, podcast secrets, transcribe, upload, all that kind of stuff. Right, you can read through this. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you, but the idea is that it's going to be something that will allow you, and if I can at some point, I'm going to look into using insanely fast Whisper or something like that, which is a way of running a version of a model that looks like OpenAI's Whisper locally to be able to actually do some stuff, some transcription stuff. And then if there is time, I don't know, this is going to be an ongoing project, but if I can figure it out, doing like an upload, which might be a super difficult thing to do because lots of different podcast companies have different upload APIs and different systems. And then, I've written about things that we're going to do for testing and all that kind of stuff and all the thoughts that I've got. So then I can figure out how this is all going to work. Anyway, before we can actually work on it, we're going to need to clone it down. So let's open a terminal over here. We do GH, make sure I am excellent. I am authorized. So why don't I think I can do GH repo clone. Excellent. So I could just literally click this code button, go to GitHub CLI, and then click that button there to copy the command. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this one because we don't need it. I'm going to bring this one over here. And you can see where I like to keep my code. I'm going to make that bigger twice. There we go. Right, move this out of the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually on a separate drive. I have a separate drive from my operating system for doing code with, just because it makes it easier for me to manage. That way I can move that drive to other computers and it keeps working. So I'm going to say, hey, go ahead and clone this stuff. Now I'm using GH. We'll talk about that in a moment. GH is the GitHub command line stuff, which just is a it's just a wonderful command line that wraps around Git. So you could do things like you could do clones, you can create issues, you can do PRs, you can do all sorts of stuff. So if I ls on here, we've now got .NET podcast. Amazing. Let's just check that's there. .NET podcast. Excellent. Okay. So the first step is we're going to actually open this with VS Code, just so we can sort of click around and create some stuff. So what have I got open on here? I have actually got Visual Studio Code. Two ways to do this. You can open by doing code and then, oh wait, hang on. We'll need to be in .NET podcast, and then I can actually do code dot, and that will say, hey code, open this folder. The dot is a Linuxy bashy thing that says open here. That's not entirely correct, but it will do. So I could do that, and I hit return. It'll open a new instance of code, and it'll open that folder. I will zoom everything in a moment. I'm just going to close that. So then the other thing I could do is I come into Visual Studio Code. I can hit open folder, and then I could actually say, where do you want to open it, and browse through the file explorer. Now I could do that, I just don't want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to do this. And actually what I'm going to do whilst I'm here, I'm going to get rid of that message, because that's a bit of a spammy message. So if you bear with me 1 second, everyone, I just need to switch my mouse back to the other computer, and I will be back in a moment. See you in a few. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I've just gone ahead and deleted that message there because it looked very much like a spammy message. I am actually running everything in one browser, so if you just bear with me a second, let me do that. And before we actually start, let's just talk real quick about MVP Summit, right? So I was at MVP Summit this year, and what we did was we went ahead and that meant that we traveled over to Microsoft headquarters last week, literally landed back home yesterday. And I thought I could show a few of the photos that I took. If you're watching this on demand and you want to skip this bit, don't worry about it, skip straight ahead. But I thought it would be quite cool to show some of the pictures that I took at Microsoft HQ. So, for instance, I'll just wait for the music to tick over. It seems a bit weird me talking through the silence, but there you go. So this was pretty cool. They had like an elephant in one of the, it's not a real elephant, it's like a model of an elephant in one of their areas where they celebrate their diversity, which is pretty awesome. They got the treehouse offices, if you've never been. These are really cool. Who took that image? I have a feeling, is Mr. No Mercy the person who took this photo? Because I think it is. If it is, and also, hey, Mr. No Mercy, how are you doing? How are you doing? This is the one of the 3 treehouse offices that is pretty cool. You can literally, let me move my mouse pointer. You can see, you can walk up here. There's a lock there, and there's another lock there, and then there's another lock to get in. I see, Sander. It's you, Sander. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment. So what's really cool about this is there's a lock there and a lock there. The locks on these 2 didn't work that day, and so we were able to just hop straight through. Sander and I, who's in the chat. Hey, Sander, how are you doing? And again, Sander took most of these, but if it's a picture of me by myself, Xander took it. Oh, sorry, Zonda. Sorry, I've been mispronouncing it. So that's me at the new Microsoft sign, just sort of standing, looking off into the distance and hugging the green bit of the sign, because obviously, you know, we all like our tests to be green, so that's what we aim for. And then I'm hiding behind the sort of abstract sign, which is pretty cool. They've got a whole bunch of new signs up this year, which is pretty groovy. And this is roughly where that was, which is, so that's where the big sign is, I think. I don't know, but this was more sort of like a friend of mine had said, why don't you take a picture of the building? And I'm like, dude, there's like a million buildings. Oh yeah, I met this guy and he's pretty cool. I don't know if you know, but that's Scott Hanselman. So he's a pretty nice guy. It was very nice of him to take a moment to take a picture with me. He was doing selfies with everybody that was there, right? It's not like I'm special or anything. And then I saw this. I think this is one of my favorite photos from the entire summit. They have these pictures everywhere that says don't take a photo whilst the talk is in session, and I decided to grab the thing and put it up like, oh no, don't take a photo of me, sort of thing. No pictures at this time, please. But yes, that's a photo, which is what that is. And then there was a bunch of us actually went into the reactor and we found a computer, and it's low quality because I was standing too far away from it. It had the podcast website loaded, which is pretty cool. So yeah, and then this was team not Blazing Squad. We all got our t-shirts printed at the same time. So let me see if I can zoom in. So this is Sean, Emma, and Lottie. They are amazing people, absolutely amazing. It really had it loaded. It was brilliant. Same crew again, hanging out at the reactor after we just had our t-shirts printed. And this is my sticker haul. So these are some of the stickers that I picked up. It's not the world's greatest haul, but like, look, shiny stickers. Everybody loves shiny stickers. And I absolutely love this one. It says, assume she is technical and capable of breathing fire, which I think is really, really important, right? Because I saw so many people out there in real life who will approach people who identify as female and assume that they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to technology. Just assume it. It's fine. It's a safe assumption to make. If you're at a place where other technology people are congregating, that's totally fine. And then on the final day and a bit, I walked around Seattle and took loads of photos. So this is like Pike Place from Friday, which is pretty cool. So I'm doing this. This is Monday the 18th of March, as you can see from the top of the stream screen, because I'm literally capturing the screen of my laptop. So this is Pike Place, which is like this whole harbor area of Seattle, which is really cool, with the aquarium and the wonderful mountains in the background. I think that way is Canada, but I'm not sure. I don't do. So this is the horrendous gum wall. It's the most intriguing touristy thing I've ever been to. It absolutely smells down there. It's like smells of spit, so don't go there. And of course, I couldn't go to Seattle without going to KEXP, which is a wonderful place to go. KEXP is a Seattle-based radio station that's been going for like 40 years, and I listen to those guys all the time. So inside there's like a coffee space where you can sit and have a coffee or whatever. Just on this side of the image there's a coffee shop, and back here is like the staff area, so you can't usually you'll find out in a minute, you can't go in there. Just on the other side of this wall is where the broadcasts happen, and this is the front desk, right? And obviously everybody takes the picture of the Seattle Tower or wherever it's called, the Space Needle, which is pretty cool. I've never been in it, but maybe next year. But then, oh my goodness, MoPop. So I'm a bass player and I love Scott Pilgrim, and this is the actual bass from the movie, which is pretty cool, with some props. The pieces of paper that they hold up in the film and stuff like that. Amazing. Firehawk V21. Hello. My goodness. It's great to have you with us. I'm just going through some photos I took at MVP Summit. We'll get back to the code in a moment, right? And then, so MoPop is the Museum of Popular Culture. So it's got like stuff to do with music, to do with video games, to do with movies, all sorts of stuff. For those who are into Back to the Future, they had the actual hoverboards from the set, or rather the hoverboard props from the set, which is pretty cool. And they also had things like Hicks's actual armor from the Aliens movie. It's taking a very long time to show the full version of the image. I'm sorry, it's all pixelated, but there you go. And the rifle that I used and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. That's a better shot. So it's Michael Biehn's armor from the movie Aliens, which is really cool. And the thing about the armor plates is that all of the designs on them, all the paint designs, are unique. Each actor was allowed to make their own markings on them, and so if you watch it back, they've all got different like designs on them for like, this is a heart that's locked, things like that. And the actors were allowed to design and do it themselves if they wanted for each character, which was really cool. Anyway, let's just scroll back out from that. This is at KEXP. They got the Patrick Swayze Roadhouse DJ Lounge, which is really cool for anyone who's ever seen Roadhouse. And this was one of those long exposure sort of panoramic shots I took of Pike Place at night, a part of Pike Place at night. and the farmers market and stuff, and how they have otters and octopi at the Seattle Aquarium. That was me having dinner on that final night. We went to this cool Japanese place, and it was amazing. Oh yes, there you are, Sander. So this was we went to a place in Redmond called BJ's, and we started our own like, what is it when you do things like a tradition? Started a tradition by going to BJ's for the final night, which was really cool. And then when I was at KEXP with two of the Not Blazing squad, we actually talked to this chap. This chap is amazing. If you ever got to KEXP and Ken is there, talk to him. He's fantastic. What's great about Ken was I explained that we'd all come from different parts of the world, and he went, hang on, let me get my I'll be right back in a moment sign. And he took us for a walk around in KEXP. That was in the park. That's not the photo I was hoping to show you next, but we'll see what happens next. That was us on one of the first days, I think it was. Yeah, the Microsoft Visitor Center. Let's have a look. Where's the photo? Oh, yeah. So we got a bit of a tour around KEXP and got to stand in the recording space, which is pretty dang cool. Right, both Emma, that's Emma there, both Emma and I were nerding out and going, oh my god, these people have performed here, these people have performed here. And then I've also got a KEXP like a magnet, which is pretty cool. That's sitting on the kitchen table. Anyway, right, where were we? Yes, we were going to talk about .NET Global Tools and what I'd like to build. So we've opened this up and switched the mouse back to this one. So we've got this global tool. We could say you could use Visual Studio Code with C# IDE or C# for DevKit or Visual Studio or Rider or things like that. I've also listed a couple of the libraries we're going to use, but there is no code here. Actually, I've got a mouse pointer in the way of my view, so I'm going to move that out of the way. So in case anyone's wondering why I keep swapping the mouse over, I'm actually building on a laptop and capturing that screen onto my main computer, which is then being used to stream everything, capture all the stuff and stream it out. It's all confusing, but it was a best practice that was recommended to me. That way, everything is running separate machines. Right, okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to say we want to create a new project here that is a C# console application. There's two ways to do this. We could do this in the code, in the command line, and I will need to move my keyboard back to the laptop because I'm a woolly. Okay, so we can do ls, we can say docs readme. So this here is in that folder there. Now it's not showing the .git ignore because by default, let me zoom in a little, because by default dot files that start with a dot are not shown here, but I can do show me all and it will show me docs.git, which we can't see here, and .git ignore. Now the .git folder is automatically hidden by Visual. I'm going to go round in circles here if I'm trying to show you everything. But .git is how we're going to use Git. That's going to store all of our history, and we can see that we're here. So we can either go .NET new console and then give it a name. Actually, first thing we'd do is we would go make directory source, and you'll see it appear there in the background. So I could have, to do that, I could have right-clicked and gone new folder. But I sometimes I like to use the command line .NET, so I can say .NET new console name. What are you going to go? .NET podcasts console. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I am saying, hey .NET, create me a new thing. It is going to be a console app, and I'm giving you the name dotnet.podcast.console. So in .NET, we separate namespaces with dots. Some other, different programming languages do it differently. In .NET, we use dots. So if you actually see here, oh my goodness, I've dropped it in the wrong place. Let's just grab that, drag it in there. Yes, we'll move it. I did that in the wrong place. So what I wanted was, let's do an ls again. Whoops. Oh gosh. A million different things. So what I wanted was for that to appear inside the source, right? So we've got here, let's just drag this over. I'll make this full screen in a moment. In fact, I'll make it full screen now. Haha. Right. I may also have to move my face in a minute, but we'll move my face later. So we've got the README. I'm going to close the README. We've got the actually, can I do open with? No, I can't. Okay. Tell you what we'll do. We'll go here. So what we've got is .NET podcasts inside the source folder. We've got dotnet.podcast.console. Inside of that, we've got a program.cs and a C# file. Fantastic. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. So this will currently build only with .NET 8. There's nothing wrong with that, but I want to be able to build it on .NET 6, 7, and 8. So first thing I need to do is I need to say target frameworks. Where's my cursor? Net -6, 6.0 semicolon, net -7.0 semicolon. Excellent, I've saved that. Now the first thing I need to do, now that I've saved that and made a change, I need to make sure it builds. So before we start getting C# dev kit installed, I'm going to open a terminal in here. Oh, I can't open a terminal in here. I'm going to open a terminal over here, and I'm going to issue .NET build, just to make sure, because I've made a change of this on this, and I sometimes get it wrong. So let's make sure I got that wrong. Not net 6. You're right, it shouldn't have the hyphens. You're absolutely right. There you go, Xander. There you go, Firehawk. Thank you very much. So that's why I do the build. I want to make sure it works. Right? It actually said that you haven't created a solution, so let's go cd source. Let's go there and do a .NET build here. Can we do it here? .NET build. Nope, can't find it. .NET whatever. .NET build. Sorry about this, folks. So we're going to go ahead and do a .NET build. It's actually going to read through the C# project file and create a whole bunch of files for us to make sure it works. So what it's actually done is it's read the program.cs, which just has console.writeline hello world. Here comes Visual Studio stepping in going, I know what this is. This is C#, this is. Also, thank you, Firehawk V21. It reads through the program.cs and the console and the CS proj. It goes ahead and it creates 3 sets of binary files. So let's go have a look at that. I went and closed that, didn't I? So let's do this. Open up my files. Go to the wrong drive, but that's fine. Go to my other locations. This is where I am building it. So we've got code, we've got .NET podcasts, we've got source, console, because this is what we just built. It creates a bin folder with debug builds for .NET 6, 7, and 8. So if you have .NET 6, 7, or 8 SDKs installed, like I do, you can actually go in here and you can see the .NET console.dll. So you could technically go .NET run that. Oh, fair enough. Oh no, actually, no, it's a DLL, isn't it? I can just actually boot it. .NET console.dll, I think. Doesn't matter. You should be able to do it, but I can't remember how to do it. It's not a problem. That's not what we're going to do. Right. So, I think it's .NET and then the name of the DLL. Doesn't matter. The point I'm making is that this is building 3 separate versions of that app, that each one runs on a different version of .NET. Or rather targets a different version of .NET. That's really useful for if I want to be able to supply this to people who might be running .NET 6 or might be running .NET 7 or might be running .NET 8. Otherwise, they have to be running .NET 8 before we can do anything. So that's pretty cool. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the ability to take in console arguments, right? So when we run it, I want to be able to do like when we call it, we're going to call it .NET Podcast Console. We need to be able to go .NET Podcast Console, do this thing, right? So the first thing we need to do for that, and my face is in the way, so I'm going to open the README, and I'm actually going to go to the command line parser command line, right? That's opened it in Firefox for us. That's fantastic. Is it going to move there? No, it's not, because the window manager is a bit silly. So this is doing a whole bunch of stuff, but this is a really good library. I love this. So if you get the chance, if you're building command line apps, and you want to support some stuff, you should use this and perhaps support it. Super easy to do. You just do .NET install and then you've got some stuff. It's even available for F#, which is fantastic. It works with Framework 4.0, Mono 2.1, .NET Standard, and Modern .NET. So it works with pretty much everything. Super simple. So we'll do the getting started in a moment. We're going to go to NuGet, because what's great about NuGet is it has, if you're running the .NET CLI, the command you need to use to add the latest version. Now I could go in and I could go, cool, where is my CS proj? I could manually add it here, but I don't want to. I'm going to keep that open. I'm going to go to this terminal and I'm going to say, hey, whoops, I'm going to say, hey, go ahead and add this thing. It's going to complain because it's not pointing at the CS proj, but that's fine. cd source .NET podcast, whatever, and we go, hey, go add this package, right? Now if you keep your eye on here, and then you'll actually see So Firehawk V21, this is a really cool project. It really is. And you can see here, it's added that for me and done a save. So that's pretty cool. So if I do a .NET build again, nothing has changed. All I've done is added that package. It's gone ahead and it's packaged it all up and put it in that folder. So if I go back to my file explorer, which I keep closing because I'm a real wally. Let's try this again. We go other locations, there, source, there, bin, debug, net6. You'll actually see somewhere, maybe it's in the Ultra folder. It grabs all of those packages and puts them all together. It doesn't matter. Right. So firstly, what we need to do before we start building things, we're going to make it easier on ourselves. We're going to go ahead and create a solution file. Now, a solution file is, so a project file says everything within this directory. Let me move my face because I'm in the way. All right. Let me do this and move my face. There we go. Now you can see what's going on. Right. Move that mouse pointer out of the way. Move back to this mouse. So that project file says that everything inside of this folder here, .NET Podcasts, is a thing that needs to be built. It tells it which SDK to build, how to build it, so it's going to create an executable, whether we can use implicit usings, whether we're going to use nullables, and all the packages to include, right? So when I do .NET build on that CS proj, it goes into that folder, does the stuff, produces some kind of executable, we're good to go. The problem with that, of course, is that if I run .NET build from all the way out here at where .NET Podcast SLN is, doesn't actually do anything for me. Now, what you'll actually see here is it's gone ahead and added that in. So we should now be able to go, let's just do this, cd, back out, and now my music is in the way. All right, let's do that. There we go. So we're now in the .NET Podcast folder, the outer .NET Podcast folder. We do ls, we can see the solution. So maybe I could do .NET build here. Excellent. So that's why we were going to create a solution, because this solution file then references all of the CS projects. It's a really complex file structure. It doesn't really have a formatting. It's not like a known format, I guess. It is plain text and it uses spacing to sort of hide stuff. So it's a bit like Python, I guess. But this tells the .NET tooling, and it tells MS Build and all that kind of stuff how to build and what to build. So it uses GUIDs to reference things. So it's saying there's a folder called source, and there's a project called .NET Podcast console.cs proj, and then it says I want you to be able to build a debug and a release, and for each of these, this here is the GUID that's referenced there. So for each of these C# projects, I want you to build it as debug or release, and I want you to do lots of nested things, and it gets really confusing, right? But officially, we're done with Visual Studio. But before we do anything, what I want to do is I want to commit everything. So where am I? I am here. So I'm going to say git status, because I want to push this all back to the world. So we've added the solution file, we added some source files, excellent. I'm going to do git add dot, add all the things. I'm going to do git commit, with 2 M's, message, initial commit of program, semicolon, doesn't do anything yet. And then I'm going to go like that. Excellent. It's told me that it's gone and created some files. It's done 46 insertions, so 3 files changed. Excellent. I'm going to go git push. And then we're going to let it do its thing. Excellent. So then if I go back to my web browser, and I go back over here, zoom out a little, refresh that. Look at that. We've done our first push to this commit, done our first push to this project live, right? Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Visual Studio Code because I don't need it no more. What I am going to do is I'm going to go, hey, Ryder, I would like to open a solution, please. I don't want it from there, I think. I want it from Matt. You don't have to do this. I do this because I have it on a different drive. So just ignore me for one moment. I'm going to say, hey, go open this solution file. Remember we talked about solution files? This is why we need the solution file, right? And it's saying, hey, you may be running this from somewhere else. You may not have written this. Because in order to build this, I need to run the code. It might be that I end up running malicious code or build scripts or something that upsets you. So if you trust it, let me open it. If you don't trust it, hit don't open. But if you do trust it, hit trust and open. I think that's a really cool thing that Rider does. There's a lot of stuff that I really like about Rider. I'm going to close the AI assistant because I don't have that yet. And this is showing me the README in the program.cs. It's got all the files and folders that we've already created, which is pretty dang cool. Oh, I can't zoom in, can I? I can only zoom in on an individual file. Let me set this really quickly. So let's go, where are we? Settings. And we're going to go font, I guess. Is it going to show me where the font is? Font. We're going to go with JetBrains Mono, but I'm actually going to upgrade it from to 18, perhaps. And then hopefully you can see it. Let's close that one and reopen it. We might be able to see it with much larger text. Nope. Well, that's annoying. I don't know what I need to do there to make that work, but JetBrains Mono. Define it. Ah, right. Okay. Ah, there we go. Right, I'm going to get confused later, and I'm going to be well confused as to why this isn't working. Fantastic. So we've got all of this. Yes, absolutely. So Firehawk V21 has said Visual Studio also has this if you turn the trust setting on, which is, again, it's pretty dang cool. Now, we want, so this is the new minimal C# stuff. This isn't brand new, but this is relatively new. So if I go to edit, where is my edit button? Because my face is now in the way, and we do CS Proj. Excuse me, because we're targeting these new .NETs, we could do minimal stuff, right? So previously, this would have looked something like using system, and then namespace, what did we say? .NET.podcasts, .console, and then it would have been public class main, no, public class whatever, right? And then public static class whatever, and then there would have been a public, public, I can't type, honest. Excuse me, public static void main and a string array with called args. String array called args. Hopefully you all can see just how crazy this thing was. Then it would have been console.writeline. Writeline. Hello world. Right. So this, all of this from line 5 onwards is the old style of that. Right? I got the string ever so slightly wrong and it's bugging me that it's wrong, but let's make it exactly right. Essentially, when you hit compile, a lot of people don't realize this, but when you hit compile, what actually happens, and I've talked to Mads Torgerson about this, is this gets converted into that. They just do it behind the scenes, right? In the same way that when you do like var thing equals 42, I said 42, so let's type 42. What happens here is this is called implicit variables. When you compile, it does that for you, right? It does that at the compile stage between you and the code hitting the compiler, just because it's clever enough to figure it out so that it makes reading the code easier. Both of these, let me get rid of this. Both of these achieve exactly the same thing. They don't do anything different, right? But and it's up to you which version you prefer. For this, I'm going to use this version because we need access to the public static void main args argument, but feel free to use whatever works for you. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Firefox and I'm actually just going to copy that first example because that gets us started. That's called quick start. We now need to call that dotnet.podcast podcast.console or whatever it was called, right? That's a little happier. What does it want? Oh yeah, podcasts. Okay, yeah, cool. Rename it for me. Cool. I typoed it. It should have been podcasts. Nice. Now, what it also wants to do is it's telling me, hey, you don't need these brackets. I'm going to keep them for now, just in case we have people who desperately want those brackets to be there. So what command line lets us do, I'm going to curate this as a public. It doesn't need to be public, but I'm going to make it public because it's public by default. I'm also going to make this a public. It's not really a public by default, but I'm going to make it that. So what actually happens, let's ignore this class for now, right? what actually happens when we run this is we drop into main, which is the entry point for our application. And the first thing it does is it calls parser, which is part of the command line stuff, calls the default parser and says parse these arguments, args, into the type options, and then go do something with it, right? So whatever you pass here will be deserialized. I always get serialized and deserialized the wrong way around. It will be deserialized into an options class, and then it will then act upon it, right? So if I put a breakpoint here, and put a breakpoint there we go, and I just run it. Now Rider's going to make a whole bunch of assumptions here. It's going to choose a framework, and it's just going to run the app without actually passing anything in. So we ran this without passing any options in, and we can see that options, the verbose flag should be false, because by default, bools are false in C#, right? That's pretty cool, not a problem. But what about if we want to pass that in? So I need to go to edit configurations. Hopefully you can see most of this. So the program arguments, I'm going to pass in -v, because we can see in the background here, the short name is V and the long name is verbose, right? So I'm going to say true, except I'm going to spell true correctly, True. So for those who can't see that, I'm going to copy this out so you can see what I've written. So I've gone ahead and set the arguments to -v space true. So when I run this again, this is just me showing you how to set up Rider. This isn't really C-sharpy things. Okay, so O is our options class, and it's come out verbose equals true. Fantastic. What about if I wanted to give it the full name? So let's just verbose. All right, I'm going to get this wrong because I type things wrong all the time. So we need to double dash verbose equals true. So that, what I did there was I'm trying to show that we have settings for support for both types of for arguments, right? So we do verbose equals true. Let's try that. Let's debug that one to make sure we got it right. Excuse me. Okay, options dot verbose is set to true because we did -- verbose true. We can also do, and this is really cool, the breakpoint won't fire with this one, but I'm also going to type in help. Right, so I'm going to edit this so that the params are -- help. This is really cool, right? Do that, and I'm going to run it, and you'll see it appear down here, but you won't actually see the breakpoint fire because it doesn't parse to an options type. So we'll run that. I'm going to move my face out of the way. Where's my mouse pointer gone? There we are. Oh gosh, I moved it so far out of the way that I disappeared. That's not good at all. Right, so there we go. Right, okay. So what's really cool about this library, and you'll have seen it whilst I was moving my face, is that when you run it and run -- help, it actually produces a help string. So it shows you version information, it shows you all the commands you can do, and it shows you the help screen, which is blooming awesome, right? All of that for free without doing anything, right? I feel like I've found the equivalent of like Fast API, which is a Python thing, right? So that's pretty cool. We can actually do that. So that means, and what's really cool is, and I'm gonna take this attribute and make it cross multi-line so it's easy to read. So all it means is we need to create a class called options, or a class called whatever, and each option within that class needs to have the option type, and we're good. How cool is that? But there's also support for verbs. So options is great, but I actually want to use verbs. So we need to scroll down to show more examples. Those are more options. Verbs, there we go. Create a separate options class for each verb. An options based class is supported. Call parse arguments with the verb attribute decorated options class, and use map result to get the program flow to the verb that was parsed. So for instance, we can have, where are we? These are verbs. So we can say this class called add options is a verb help task. Okay, so let's go ahead and create some stuff. So we're going to go public class, let's call it create. We'll open that out, and we need to add a verb on there. So we do the verb attribute. We are, whoops, open close brackets. Cool. It wants a name, right? Okay, so we're going to call it create What else does it want? Help text. The word .net. Fantastic. That's what I wanted. Thank you very much. Help text equals used to create a podcast project file. Amazing. Podcast project file. Nice. Okay. So then I'm going to come down here. So what do we need to do? We need to do it slightly differently. We need to return something. Okay, I get it. Right. So what we want to do instead, so I'm gonna comment all of this stuff out so we can come back to it if we break it. I like to do that because then that way if I've broken something I can easily come back to it. So this is returning an int. Fantastic, that's great. I always like to return an int. This is an old school programming thing. When an app closes, it should really tell, or when some process finishes, it should always tell the thing that called it what happened. And in old school development, so back in the days of C and Unix, you would return an error code, right? Error code of 0 usually means everything went okay, and any other number means something went wrong. And that's usually set by the developer of the code. So the first thing we want to do is we want to return command line parser default args document. Right, okay, cool. So that's the default. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to return one of these, except we need to do create. What did we call it? We need to really call it a create. Do we call it a create? Create options, right? Create options. Okay. Just by calling it create, it seemed a bit weird. So we're going to that. We pass args in. Is that what we do? No, we don't. Okay, where do we pass args? We don't. Excellent. Add options goes to map result. Right. Okay, so that's not right. That's fine. I'm still learning to use this. You know what? Let's just copy paste it. Right. And then we'll deal with what's broken in a minute. So copy that. It's always good to just copy paste. Right. Okay. So we're going to, that's right. Yeah. So we're going to do create options. So it was actually off the screen, right? We don't have the other options yet. That's fine. We're going to get rid of these. I'm going to keep that one because that's quite useful. That's going to complain because I've done that. So what this is saying, get rid of this and that. Now, that's fine. We don't have a method for that yet. So let's just create it up here. Public. We want int. We'll call it run and add return code, return exit code. And we're going to take a create options in options. And we're just going to do a return 0. Because what I want to do is I want to make sure that I've wired it up correctly, right? Then we can put a breakpoint in here. Fantastic. Whoops, put the actual breakpoint in there. Run and return exit code is not accessible in a static content, so let's make it static for now. Fantastic. What's the problem? I don't want to convert it into a method group call. Right. Excuse me. So what's going to happen this time, if we ignore all of this commented out code that I'll fold away, what's actually going to happen is, let's comment that out and fold it away. Right, when we run the app, we're going to hit the main area. We're then going to, let's get rid of that. We're then going to call a parser default parse arguments create options and pass in the args we received at the command line. It's then going to try and deserialize that into a create options class, and then it's going to pass that in to the run and return exit code, which is here. It's going to take that in and it's just going to return 0. Now that's not immediately going to work because I remember when we did the edit configurations, we put -- help. So if I just put the word create, we'll end up here. So if I hit run, well, what I like to do is I like to build things up iteratively, very slowly, make small changes and make sure it works. Fantastic. So we passed the word create in. That's not available because we're not in that context anymore, right? Which then caused this thing to create as a create options type because it matched on the verb name, and then it passed our options into run and return exit code. Because our options class has nothing in it, we can hover and it doesn't do anything, it doesn't have any properties, but it's going to return 0. So if I run that, fantastic, we returned a 0. So if I go back to the debug output, is it this one? It doesn't matter. There's one way you can see all of the terminal stuff. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so we called our exe create and it just returns 0, right? Fantastic. It works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this options class that we commented out. I'm going to get rid of this code that we commented out just because we don't need it anymore. Fantastic. Right. So what we can do here is we can create a method that takes in an IEnumerable of errors, public, whoops, public static. It's going to return an int, and it's going to be handle. I'm going to call it handle errors, and we're going to take in an I enumerable of error, and we're just going to do return one. You probably want a log or something when we've got some errors to do. Log all the errors, right? I'm just going to show that this works, right? We need to give this a name, and we're going to call it errors, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to change this. Instead of just returning one, I think we need to do errors, because errors is named there. Cool. Right, this time when we run it, we give it something that causes us to give it an error. So I'm going to type Jamie in here, which isn't a known verb. I'm going to go run. I put a breakpoint here. Hopefully I can get there in time. Yep. We're going to run. We're passing in Jamie. You can see it here, .NET console Jamie. And we've ended up in create. Why have we ended up in create? We shouldn't have ended up there. That's weird. What were the args? I'll just have to investigate that. I wasn't expecting to end up there. That's weird. Oh well. Try again. Let's see what our args are. Maybe it just didn't update or something? I don't know. You can see we're saying .NET console Jamie. Fair enough. Okay, so I've wired something up incorrectly, but that's fine. That's not a problem. Doesn't matter. What we should have done, we should have had... no, I know what we'll do. Pass it in without any verbs. Right, so we're not doing anything. We'll leave that breakpoint there in case we end up there. Run this. I always like to do this kind of thing, because then I'm investigating how this library works, right? I already know how this library works. Right, we've got no arguments. We're going to run that. And we ended up in run and return. No, we still ended up there. Weird. Oh well, doesn't matter. Cool. Whatever. That's not a problem. But that's fine. There's probably something I've not done. That's fine. Okay, so we've got that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this create options out to another class, because that actually, no, first thing we're going to do is, can I get a terminal? Tell you what we'll do. We'll go to pull requests, git, there we go. Move me out the way. So just bear with me a second. Drag me down here. Feels like I fit a little bit better down here, right? I don't know how you all feel, but that's how I feel. Right, so let's have a look what we've done. We've swapped hello world for all of this stuff. So I'm going to say excellent, we'll include that one, and we'll say my commit message, initial commit of working. I'm going to put command, whoops, line parsing. Excellent. And I'm going to commit and push that. So then at least we've got it, right? It has actually failed because I've put a to do in there. I'm going to say that's fine, commit push. I'm okay with that. Go ahead and push. Fantastic. It's pushed. So if we go back to the browser, go back over here. Hooray! We've got actually working. I've put working in commas. We'll talk about that in a moment. Program.cs, we've got some stuff. Excellent. So we're getting there, right? This is great. I love doing this because we've broken it down into small steps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to its own place. So inspection, create derived type. Why do I? I'd have thought I could have control dotted and moved that to its own file. Maybe I have to do it here. Private, protected. Nope. Okay. Why can't I move it? I don't want to make it abstract. I'm probably missing this because I'm still living on refactor. Move to another file. There we go. Program.createoptions.cs. No. Just create options, right? It's going to live in a slightly different class. Not going to add it to that. So we're going to do .NET.console.NET.models. Fantastic. Oh no, it lives in the thing. No, it doesn't. Drag this out. Actually, .podcast. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the default namespace for everything, because that's it's bugging me that I did it wrong, but that's fine. Let's go edit console, make sure there's no .podcasts there. Fantastic. And do that. Cool. Okay, so now we've got a create options, which lives in the... I'm going to create a namespace for that, so that's going to be models. And we're going to do move it to a folder, create a folder models, move this into here. It should probably be called options, really. Yeah, options. Yeah. Alright, I'll do it here. Now, the problem is I am now immediately operating outside of the .NET spec, the C# spec. .NET podcast consoles options. I've broken something here. I've actually caused it to think that the namespace should be root namespace podcasts. Now this is going to break because this doesn't know where this is. So we're going to say, hey, go ahead and give me a reference to that. Fantastic. So now this is working again. Create options is now in our options namespace, which is using the semicolon. This is the new format. So I could actually go like that. And to some people that's more readable. To me, that's more readable. But again, what's happening is when I hit build, it does that for me, right? But this makes it more readable. There's less indentation, fewer things on screen, fewer lines, easy, right? Fantastic. And we'll actually do the same here. So we'll say, hey, use the file scope. It's called file scoped namespaces. So we'll do that. And we're happy now. So all we've got in here now is, let's get rid of the partial, because I think, was it egregious? No, okay, fair enough. There is, I think it's Sonar Cube if you have a partial class. So if you have that, so this is public partial class program without another part to it. So there isn't another public partial class. Whoops. Why don't I just copy that line? That makes more sense. There we go. That makes way more sense. So if you do that, so there are two partial classes, both called program, it's fine. But if you do just the one, with Sonar Cube, I think it says that this is egregious. Not just not needed, it's egregious, which is no good. I don't think that's any good. But what's it complaining about now? I don't want to make it abstract at all, and I don't want to make it static because these are going to get moved as well. Cool. So we've got that. We got the program running. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to start logging stuff. I always find that logging happens at the last possible minute and people forget about it, right? Whereas actually, if we start logging stuff now, it'll make it way easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my favorite logging platform, Serilog. Everybody has their own favorite ones. This is my favorite one. So let's have a look. In fact, for those watching live, tell me what your favorite logging framework is. For those who are watching on YouTube, what's your favorite logging framework? Let's start this installation process. So we want to add Serilog and console. Excellent. Those are the packages we want. So we can either, now, because we're in Rider, which is a fully featured IDE, we can either pull up a console and do .NET package add Serilog or whatever it was, or we can right click on dependencies and say, hey, get me some NuGet packages. Now, I'm gonna have to move my face out of the way again. So maybe I'll put it here. We may end up doing this a lot while we're chatting today, but I apologize. So we're going to do a Serilog. We want Serilog. Excellent. We want that. I don't want to use a dev build, so I'm going to use 3.1, which is the latest build. In some libraries, like the Community MVVM Toolkit, it requires partial classes or at least source-generated observable property. Is this why there's a partial keyword? Yes. So Firehawk v21, the short answer is yes, because you can use source generators to generate the backing code behind things like the observable property to make it a little bit easier. So the MVVM Toolkit steps in, generates a bunch of code in there for you to wire up where your, like, for perhaps your .NET MAUI or Xamarin app and your backing code, your V or VM, it wires those things up for you. You can also do it with logging, and there's a wonderful blog post by Andrew Locke about the best practices for logging using source generators, which means that the code is only ever written once, which is brilliant and helps with speeding things up. That's precisely what the partial keyword is for, so that then you can split one class across multiple files, but also so that you can have a source generator come in and generate some source code for you. So that's the short answer. Let's go and add that project. But that's a brilliant question. Thanks for that, Firehawk V21. We also want the console, so we can write to the console. I'm going to add 5 and see if it complains. So I've added version 3 of Serilog. Can I add version 5 of that? Yep. And I'm also going to say I want to be able to log to a file as well. So there he is, cynical developer, always jumping in, asking those questions. How you doing, James? James, did you know that the obviously we both know that the URL for tabs and spaces has expired. Hey James, go ahead and go to tabsandspaces.io. I accidentally did it on stream, so there you go. Why am I using Serilog and not just the iLogger? I mean, because I like it. I mean, you can use both. Use what makes you happy, right? Whatever makes you happy. So, what we want to do some Serilog stuff. We're going to pull in using Serilog. I'm going to create a new logger. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say, hey, go create me a new logger using logger configuration. I think that's not going to like it, but that's fine. We're also going to write to, I need a dot there. Oh gosh. Write to file. Excellent. And it's going to complain because it wants a file. So we'll call this, actually, can I get the namespace? I'll just hard code it for now. dotnet.podcasts. That will do it. That way it's written out to the same folder with the dotnet.podcast logger. I'm just going to blow my nose, so I'm going to go muted whilst I do this. Don't want to cause you all issues with your hearing. I think I caught that plain loggy on the way back, which is not good, but there you go. So what this is saying, hey, go create me a log using the default logger configuration. I want you to write to the console, but also I want you to write to the file, and I want you to go and create it for me so we can actually log some stuff. And then we can actually log.information. So we can say log.information. Let's put this in a const string app. I don't like to do this, but we'll fix it later, right? Because I'm going to refer to this a whole bunch of times. Podcasts. There is a way to get the name of the namespace, but I will just do this for now. Sploop. And then we're going to go app name has started. Now I'm going to do verbose login to begin with, but that's fine. I'm going to do log.information using args, and then see if we can print it off. Arguments. We'll just do args.join, I think. Can we do join? Yep, join. And it wants, what does it want? That's not what we want. I'm just going to do args.to. Args will do. That'll do. Doesn't matter. It's not going to print properly, but it will do. So this time when we run it, if I put a breakpoint here, what will actually happen is it'll run and it'll log those lines, right? Which will be brilliant. So we can actually see in the debug output, no, in the console. So it started and it's passed in an empty string, right? Because our arguments were empty to begin with. That's fine. That's not a problem. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put create back in here. Create. And then I'm going to run it again, keeping an eye on the time because I'll need to set off soon, but that's totally fine. I'll tell you what I'm setting off for in a minute. So I'm pretty open like that. So we can actually see it's actually saying we are using these particular arguments. But the great thing is, if I go back to my file explorer that I keep closing, I'm going to keep it open this time. Cynical developer, did you go to the website? And I wonder whether you got the same thing that I got. So if I go to source, podcasts, binary files, debug, net6, I suppose. One of these will actually have a log in there somewhere. I'm guessing it's .NET. So I think it's going to... No. Okay, fair enough. There should be a log somewhere. CS proj folders. Doesn't matter. But it should be logging to disk as well. I wonder where it went. Bin, debug, net6. I did. It was yes, it was a broken. Oh, right. So for you, it was slightly different. For me, it was like this furry station lady in her bra. So yeah, go ahead and watch the thing back when we're finished. You'll see what I mean. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go right to file, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say interpolated string, and I want you to use app name. That's it. App name.log. There we go. I need to put it outside the brackets. .log. This is not brilliant for actual file names and memory usage and stuff like that, but I'm going to do that. So it should then create a .log file on disk, right? Run that to completion. Fantastic. Go back to the file explorer that I keep closing. Pro tip for everyone who does live streaming, by the way, sign up for the Chill Hop creator stuff. You get access to all of their music for free in your streams, which is pretty cool, and in your videos as well, as long as you give them. There you go. .net-podcast.log. There we go. We took ages to get there, but we've got there. Look. Let me get rid of these. Don't need those. Right? You can actually see the logging has started, and this gives me structured logging and all sorts of stuff, right? So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna close those. Excellent. Right. So what I like to do when there is a logger involved is I like to do slightly different program layout, and I do this with ASP.NET Core websites as well. So first thing I do is a try, and then I do a catch, and I actually do exception E. I'll talk about that in a minute, and then I do a finally, and then I do logger.flush. Is it log.flush? Oh no, I've disconnected from everything. Looks like I dropped out then for a second there. Is it close and flush? I can't remember how to do it. What did y'all miss? Y'all missed something. I don't know what y'all missed. But what I'm saying is I like to do a structured approach to when I run an app. So I set up the login. I then wrap my call to wherever I'm going in a try. Then catch a very vague exception, which the C# compiler will complain at me about, and writer will. Yeah, it's saying I'm using an empty general catch clause to suppress any errors, but that's fine. I want that. And then what I want to do here is I want to do log.flush or close. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, I didn't drop out. Okay, thanks. How do we do this? Close and flush. There we go. Oh wait, log.close and flush. There we go. I'm not working in an async environment yet, but I like to do this, right? Because this is really cool, because then if any exception runs at runtime, it gets caught here, we nicely drop out, and we carry on from there. It's wonderful. And I'm actually going to copy this log.log error, and I'll place it there. Can I use the lowercase log? I can. I'm going to cause exception there. Excellent. And that way we get those logs every time that we run, even if something fails. Close that so you can see my entire main function. So if something fails and we don't need the, we can use that version. Fantastic. Close and flush. Close and flush. I think it needs that one. What? It's not happy about that. Oh, there we go. There we go. Cool. What's wrong with this? Because we're not returning we're not returning anything. That's fine. Because I've said I want an int returned. Okay. So I'm going to change this. And we're actually going to call it, make it a task now. That's now broken. And this is now broken. So we're going to go await that. We're still not returning anything. That's fine. Async task. That's fine. Blah, 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 blah. What doesn't it like about that? Ooh, rolling interval per day. That's a really good one. Let's do that. I like that. Rolling interval per day. Right. Fix this in a moment. Just bear with me a second. Rolling interval. Yeah. So what that means is if I run an app, if I run this and it ticks over a 24-hour period, if I run this throughout one day and then the next day I run it again, it creates a different log for that day. Right. So this is async. Public async task. What does it like? Class static. Oh, it needs to be static. That's why. Static. Blah. Right, there we go. Right, what's wrong with this? Oh, close and flush. Give me the async version. Oh, wait. Thanks, Ryder. Okay, cool. So this is going to fail, but that's fine. I want to do parse arguments. Is there an async? Probably, I don't know. Let's go back to the command line parser and look for async. Support asynchronous with async await. Fantastic. That's not useful. Those are the quick start examples, so we need to figure out how to do this with async. We don't really need to do it with async, so we're not going to do it with async for now. Public static void main. Get rid of the await, and that's going to complain. We're going to get rid of that, and that's running. And then we're going to go flush. There we go. What doesn't it like now? Add and return exit code. That's going to, because that's returning a value. So I'm going to say void. Get rid of the return because we don't need the return value now. That's going to be void. I know this is breaking those standards, but that will do. Excellent. Are we happy now? Map results. Try specifying what arguments? What arguments? What arguments? Oh, it wants map results of type. Why does it want map results of type? You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to copy paste that bit. And then I'm going to paste it in there. It's going to complain about that. What doesn't it like? That's weird. Maybe because it was returning. You know what? Let's undo all of this. Let's keep it returning a number. That's fine. Yeah, you return that. You return that. Fantastic. Keep that as... Oh, it's happy now. Int. And now it returns those. And then we'll do... catch. Finally, when we're down here, return. If we get to this point, we've got a problem. So return -1. Cool. And we'll put return here, so that will return the number. Fantastic. Okay, so now we've got to a point where let's get rid of. Nope. Get rid of that empty. There we go. Cool. So now we're at a point where it runs and it puts the logging around it. So let's commit that too. Right? Because I like to make these small commits. Other people don't. I know that the cynical dev likes to make massive commits with 1 billion changes and goes, yep, all of those things changed. So let's have a look. What did we do? We added some stuff. We changed the namespace to a file scope namespace. We added an app name. Okay, before I do that, what I want to do is I want to put in here. I move that pointer out of the way because I was in the way. I'm going to put in here to do. Nope. This is suboptimal, but it'll do for now. Right? I'm always about just getting the work done. Right? We needed to put the app name into the login, so we did that to get the app name into the login because that gets us 90% of the way with minimal effort. We'll fix that, make it a lot better. And as James is saying, we made all the changes, right? So let's have a look, see what we did. Let's close these. Okay, so we added Serilog. Move this out of the way so you all can see. So we added Serilog and we changed the root namespace. We changed that because we changed it from .console to, yeah, that's fine. And then we added Serilog. Okay, so what's the unversioned file? Oh, we need that too. So we need all of these changes. So we did moved root namespace to dotnet-podcast. Podcasts. It should be podcast. Doesn't matter. So we did that. We then can I enter? Yes. We then created, implemented very basic logging, and then implemented create verb. Excellent. So that's that done. I am actually going to click something down here. I'm just going to click commit and push. It's behind my head. It's around here on the UI where my hand is. I'm going to click that, and then it's going to complain, hey, you've left a to-do in there, and I'm going to commit anyway. Doesn't matter. I push that up. Expand this to full screen. And we're going to go over to, I think that's the end of that album. I don't think it is. And then we're going to go back here. We've got the initial version of it. We've got .NET podcasts. We've got program.cs with some stuff. We've got the default login. Something went wrong. And we're ready to go. Amazing. We've got the logger, so we can actually start logging the errors. So we'll do that before we call it quits today. So in our options, what I want to do, no, not in options, don't need that yet. In program.cs, we're going to move these out to handlers actually. So let's create a folder. Again, I'm breaking the C# standard here by using lowercase names for stuff, but it's because I want that lowercase name for stuff. I'm just being weird at this point. So we're going to add a class interface. We're going to call it error. We're going to call it error handler. Cool. That'll create that. Excellent. We're not going to add it to source control yet. I do like that that Rider was trying to be helpful, but we don't want it yet. We don't want it. Do we want it static? We want a static class. Yep, static class. This will do. This gets us over. No, we don't want it to be static. So we need a constructor. We need to inject some stuff in. So yes, add that. That's fine. Then we're going to go CTOR. Little tip for you in case you don't know about this. In both Rider, Visual Studio, and Visual Studio Code, if Visual Studio Code is clever enough to figure this out, you can type CTOR and hit tab. It gives you the constructor, which is really cool. I want a private, whoops, I'm going to use some dependency injection here. Private read-only iLogger for error handler called logger. And then I'm going to say, hey, give me, really? All right, I'll figure that out in a minute. That's going to say initialize it. Why isn't that working? All right, let's go back to the Serilog documentation. Serilog, okay. There is a dependency injection thing, so where are we? Why didn't I want to do Serilog DI? There we go. Why am I not doing it? Blah, 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 yep, okay, right. So this person here, firstly, we're going to use the answer by, we're looking like we're going to use the answer by C. Augusta Proete. So it's an iLogger for context, right? Okay, so we're going to go iLogger without that. That makes more sense. And then do we need to dependency inject it in? Probably don't. Cool, that's happy. We're going to get rid of that. Equals log.forContext. There we go. Error handler. Whoops, not for error. Error handler. Cool. So we can DI it later, but we'll do this for now. Right, so we're just going to go logger.log, whoops. Error. Errors encountered. And then actually, to log the errors, it's an IEnumerable, so we're going to have to go errors.select. And we're projecting it in. So we're going to go logger. And then just do error goes to right. It's going to complain about that because we're not using the return type. What do you mean add? Why do I need to add? It's an IEnumerable. Alright, tell you what. To list, so we get it in memory. Dot select what? Why does it want to? I don't understand. Okay, tell you what. Let's let Rider write it for us then, shall we? Let's take this. Cut that out. For each var in errors dot to list. That makes it happy. Paste that in there. Close that off. Happy? Cool. So then at least now we're handling those errors. What's wrong with this? Yeah, we'll just create it into initializers. That's fine. Cool. So then we don't actually need the constructor. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here. We're actually going to go. Whoops. Do we need a new one then? Actually, do we? Oh well. New hand. This is really crap shortcode, but it will do. Cool. So this is saying when we have errors, go create a new error handler and then pass in the errors. Let me just move this around so you can actually see it without yours typing being in place. I will fix the chat another time, but not now. So when we have errors, we're going to create a new error handler and pass in the errors into the error handler. What we'll do eventually, next time we come round, is we'll actually add in dependency injection. So to do dependency injection injection for, oh gosh, what have I done there? I think I started it running. Let's stop that. We need to keep writing this to do. Where did I put my to do? For all handlers. Cool. Because new is glue. Now this is like a CLI app that's going to run. You're going to call it, it's going to do something, it's going to drop out and stop, but it's kind of worth doing best practices, right? So we'll also go ahead and we can delete this now, makes that super easy. Cool. And then we're going to create a create handler. So we'll actually just create that in the same file. Then we'll use public, whoops, class create handler. And then we'll say, we all have our Butterfinger moment. I have my Butterfinger moment all the time. Like, I'm more impressed when I don't have a Butterfinger moment. Public int handle create. We'll rename this later. Create options opt. There we go. And a hander. We don't want a hander. We want a handler. So we'll create the logger. Again, we're going to replace it. So we're going to be to do replace logging with replace with injected logger. Cool. So we'll need a constructor to do that, but that's fine. Cool. And we'll create this create handler. Nice. And then we'll do logger.begin context. I always love this. Begin. I think because I've got the Microsoft logger, I think that's why. Nope. All right, fair enough. Context. For context. For context, it needs a name, right? What's it called? I like to add the context, but let's see what's going on. What is it? Right, I'll tell you what, let's use the debugger and figure out. Decompile that stuff, homie. That's really useful. T-source type generated log s messages in this. Okay, so can I do handle create? Cool. Nope, I can't do that. So we'll do create handler. You know what? Let's not bother with that. I'm being fancy by doing that. So we'll do logger.log information. Fine. Handling create. Gosh, handling create. Cool. Nice. Then we need to return 0, just so we're returning something, because we've got that API of move to there. No, we don't want to add it. So we're creating this idea with the API of returning an int. So what we can do is we can actually get rid of this, and then we're going to go create handle create, which is, these are daft names, but they will do for now. A new one of these, handle create, excellent. And we're going to make sure it still runs. Move my face out of the way so you can see the logs. There we go. I'll just do that first. Move my face out of the way. I will make this way better for the next time, but there you go. So we've gotten to the point. Swap to the other mouse. One mouse, two computers, using args create. So we've actually got that now. So if I go back to my file explorer, nope, I'd have thought that super and F would bring up the file explorer, but that's fine. Go into code, dotnet-podcast, source, podcasts, bin, debug, net6, log. Is it this one? Hey, cool. Let's get rid of both of those files and see what happens. Yeah, I know I made a change, but that's fine. Delete them both. running again. Did I close that window? No, I didn't. Okay. There it is. There's my log. So what it is because I said open it with that daily rolling. This is the log for today, which is pretty dang cool. So I am going to then go ahead and close this. Can I close it and close it forever? Doesn't matter. Cool. So then what we need to do is commit this, and then we're done for the day. We will do some more stuff tomorrow. There's your hint that this is going to be an ongoing series. It's going to move me again. Move me back down here. I wonder if I'm moving whilst I'm broadcasting or whether it jumps. Let me know. Serilog has a built-in way to attach a date to the file name. You're absolutely right, Firehawk. I'll just jump back and show you how I did that. So that is, let me just move on my view, my mouse pointer out the way. So what that is this section here. I'll put a little return there so you can see. So one of the options for write to file is you can give it the path, but the other one is the rolling interval. So you can say every day, give me a brand new file, or you can say every hour, every year, every minute, every month, and I believe infinite is every time you run. The log file will never roll, so it never rolls over, right? But you can say for every day, give me a brand new log. For every hour, give me a brand new log. For every year, give me a brand new log. You know, you can dial it up to whatever you want. So I usually choose day, so let's put day. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? Firehawk V21. So it's literally this here. You can control this by config, which we'll eventually move to, but I want to build it up slowly, one step at a time, right? So we'll control that later. How to use date time just to give it a date. Oh, so you were doing like date time. So I guess datetime.now .toString, right? And you were doing like whatever format you wanted, right? I don't want to impose a format on someone, but you were probably doing something like that, right? You're doing something along them lines, right? Let me put that on a new line so you can see it. So you were probably doing something like that, right? Ah, I see. Oh, Surly Dev, how are you doing? How are you doing? I'm just undoing some changes that I made there to show something off to Firehawk V21. We were just discussing about how to get Serilog to write out a brand new log file every day. So I'm glad to hear it, Surly Dev. I'm glad to hear it. So yeah, what we and you've joined just as we're about to tune out, but I'm going to commit these changes. Then I'll talk you all through what we've done, and you can catch up there, Surly Dev, if you want. So let's have a look at this. So what did we do? I spotted you amongst the sea of names. Did you see? I did see, Surly Dev. I did. Very good spot. Very good spot. I always like to double check this. Look, I've got rid of one of the to-dos, right? I got rid of all the to-dos, so that makes me even better, right? That's brilliant. What did we do here? We moved it to its own file. Yeah, okay, so I removed one to-do and replaced it with two, but that's fine. Okay, so moved handlers to their own files. What else did we do? What else did we change? Oh, that's it. That's all we did here. That's fine. Cool. Commit and push. Hey, you left some to-dos in. That's fine. Let's do that. Push that stuff. Right. So to catch you up here, Surly Dev, I'm going to show you the GitHub repo so that folks can see. I'm also going to say a live thank you to this person here, C. Augustus Piotr. I apologize. I definitely mispronounced your name there. So this user here helped us from the past. They got us over a small problem. So if you want to go ahead and thank them, they are on Twitter here at Augustus Piotr. I'll put these into the chat or something in a moment when we're dialing out. But this user here helped us by answering a question on how to inject Serilog, how to use Serilog in our apps. Now, we didn't actually use the injection yet, so it's not actually injecting stuff, but we used their answer to get us to the next step. So I want to thank them publicly. So this user here, C. Augustus Poriete, I've probably mispronounced that, I'm really sorry. But this is the person who saved us, so thank you very much. So I'm going to leave this page open. What we've done, Surly Dev, is if I go back to my command line app here, back to my GitHub repo, I want to be able to build what's this? Users fixing problems in the past are the best, especially if they blog about it. I've thanks passed me sometimes, but yes, absolutely. So Surly Dev there brought up a really good point, that past you or past other people can help future you and future other people by documenting stuff, by using Stack Overflow to answer a question, or by blogging about something. I saw it myself. I've helped my past self has helped me, and my past self has helped countless other devs as well, because a number of places where I've worked as both a permanent employee and a contractor, I've walked around and seen people reading my stuff to help them do whatever they're doing. So past you can help, current you can help future people as well. So if you solve a problem, just write a really short blog post about it. Today, like you could write, today I needed to inject some an iLogger and I didn't know how to do it. I found an answer by Stack Overflow user C. Augusto Poriete. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing that, who's been on the site for 14 years and 4 months. And they answered the question in 2020, and that helped me to do what I needed to do. So that can help. And then you splat the answer, right? That really helps you. Setting up source link can help in a pinch as well, mainly if you need to look at code real quick. Absolutely, Firehawk V21. We'll look into it at a later stage, but Copilot can help as well. Copilot actually works within Rider now, so there you go. So that's pretty cool. I really like this tip, Surly Dev. I created a today I learned section of our Azure DevOps where I drop notes now and then. Sometimes a simple tip about using Slack better. 100%, right? Because sometimes a today I learned or something really quick that you learned isn't something that you feel requires a 5,000 word blog post or a 1,000 word blog post or a 300 word blog post, but documenting it somewhere means that it's written down somewhere. And if it's written down, you can then search, wait, how did I do this before? And if it's a plain text file like a markdown or something in a wiki or whatever, it means that you can just pull that up and search for it. It's why I keep all of my notes in Obsidian, because that's plain text, right? I can just search it. I don't actually have to use Obsidian to search it. In fact, I will show you my Obsidian vault. I'll have to be careful because there's personal stuff in there as well, but I actually keep it on on GitHub, right? Because it's just markdown files. So if I go like library, I won't go to daily notes because that's definitely personal stuff, but like I can say, hey, I happened upon I happened to read the Citizenship in a Republic thing a few months ago, so I made a note of it, and that is in, I guess it's in research. No, okay, so yeah, so this is even better, right? This is even better, right? A bunch of Japanese proverbs that I happened upon whilst reading different things, right? So Ichigo Ichie means it only happens once in a lifetime, right? So a meeting with someone, you could approach a meeting with someone with the Ichigo Ichie feeling that we may never meet again. I want to give you as much value. I want you to get as much value as you can from this conversation, right? And this one actually came from Wabi Sabi, which is a Japanese book about the Wabi Sabi lifestyle. There's Nano Yokorobi Yaoki, which means fall 7 times, rise 8. So every time you get knocked down, dust off your butt, carry on. My favorite one, Saru mo kikara ochiru, which means even monkeys fall from trees. Even the things that live in trees that are arguably the masters of climbing trees get things wrong. It's okay that you got it wrong. Even the experts get it wrong. I mean, I was one of the things that I did at MVP Summit was I went and saw a talk with Scott Hanselman and Martin Woodward. And the amount of times, and Hanselman's brilliant at this, if he makes a mistake, he goes, whoops, I messed up. I'll just keep moving on, right? He makes a mistake, accepts it, and moves on, carries on. It doesn't let it define the performance of what he's doing, right? Sally Deb, Wabi Sabi, you mean wasabi? Okay, fair enough. Wasabi is Japanese horseradish. Very spicy, very good for clearing your sinuses. So if you've got blocked sinuses, and it has to be proper wasabi, not like pretend wasabi that's like other stuff, and you want a small amount of it on a teaspoon, put that in your mouth, let that do its thing for about a second and swallow it down, and it will clear, like it just clears everything. It's brilliant, but that's a little disgusting. But what I'm getting at here with Surly Dev's idea of a TIL file is you could totally put it into I've got it in a private Obsidian vault. You can see it's private, and this is a vault that I open on my laptop, which is off screen at the moment, and I can do like, hey, I'm doing some research. So what am I researching? This is my commonplace book, right? So my commonplace book is a list of books. I love that. Strong convictions loosely held, right? My commonplace book is a file that references all of the books that I read, say, in 2023, right? So the book Who Not How, right? There's a quote in here, limited at best. You're only one person. As brilliant as you are, your current views are very limited at best. By combining your perspectives and skills with those of others, your thinking and results can improve dramatically. So that's from a book called Why Not How. It uses some special markdown syntax that I can click through to if I'm using anything that reads markdown syntax. But what's great about this is I could just search. I don't have to actually think. I could just write it down, save it, push it, and it's stored somewhere. I don't have to worry about it, right? So it's really cool. I use like a modified version of a para, P-A-R-A method, which is projects, areas, archive, and research. But I do slightly different things. I use Citra Notes as a note-taking app, and when I find things, I tag them with notes. And if someone shows me something, I'll tag it also with their name, because quite often I'll forget the thing I was looking for or specific tags, but I remember who showed me. That's brilliant, Surly Dev. That's a wonderful idea. And if you're using Citra Notes and it works for you, use that. I prefer plain text because I can search. I can think, wait, it was in that book, or what was that quote from? It goes something like this. And I could do a text search, or I could do a regex search, and it'll come up. I would recommend that folks start taking notes digitally in plain text, or as close to plain text as they can, because then you're platform agnostic. But if you're in OneNote, if you're in Word, if you're in text files, whatever, just do it, right? It's really cool. So yeah, definitely do that. And I use obsidian.md. I use Obsidian. It's free, but other people use whatever they want, right? What I really like about Obsidian is it has this graph view, but there you go. Oh, you can also export to HTML. Awesome. One of the things that Obsidian does is you can push a button and publish it to the web, which is pretty cool. And I use it with Git. There's the graph. It's showing you off the graph. I use it with Git, but you can also, and the canvas is brilliant. It's just a JSON document, but you could drag stuff in. I wonder if it's going to give you an example if you click on this. Yeah, so you just it's moving way too quick, but you just drag and drop stuff in. You can add like a text file, you can add a website, you can add a YouTube. I think it's really cool because it's like a visual learning thing. But there you go. It's worth giving it a go. It takes a little time to get used to, and it is free. But if you're using it for commercial things, they're expecting you to pay $50 per user per year. And you had a brief look at Obsidian the other week. Need to give it a better try. I'm learning Microsoft Loop. Currently using it as a design doc. Fantastic. Surly Dev, I'll see you in a minute. You're saying you're off on whatever. You're going to continue to listen. Firehawk V21, again, whatever works for you. I personally, I've never heard of Microsoft Loop, so let's give it a look. Collaborative app. Okay, cool. See, this. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like Notion then. I mean, that's the feeling I get immediately looking at that screenshot is it's a Notion-like app, right? That's pretty cool. If it works for you, Firehawk, then definitely use it. It sounds like I'm being really hand wavy, but I am totally for whatever people use, right? Whatever you want to use is fine with me. I use Obsidian because I use it for free because it's for personal stuff, but it's well worth paying for if you're doing it for commercial use. And they have a sync option that you can pay $8 a month and it syncs through their server, but I'm using GitHub, so I don't need to do that. There's a plugin for GitHub, which I trust because I've read through the code, so that's pretty cool. And it's all good, but that's definitely worth a look. Anyway, so I'm going to keep that tab open. I'm also going to minimize because this window's now getting in the way. Okay, so did we commit those changes? We did. Fantastic. And I know he's only listening, but for Surly Dev's point of view and for anyone else coming in, what we're building together is I'm hoping to build, and I'm accepting pull requests, so if people want to jump in, let me do the first couple of days and just get the platform up and running, because next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add dependency injection and start writing some tests. And then we'll actually start invoking files and stuff like that. The point with this project is to actually create a console app that I can call from the terminal. Let me move the terminal out of the way. where I can do something like, let's get rid of some of those lines. There we go. So I could do something like podcast, create, right? And it'll create a project, or podcast, prepare, right? Where it will take all of the audio files found in a directory without climbing a tree or anything, find all the files in this directory, put them into a zip file and just dump them on disk, because maybe I want to upload it to my editor. But the prepare will also do like, hey, they are WAV files. WAV files are way too big, so let's convert it to FLAC so that then it'll be smaller, then zip it, not to save space, but just to combine them together, so that then I can email it to the editing team. Or like podcast transcribe. Let's put a space here, because there is such a thing. There is a thing called insanely fast whisper. Insanely fast whisper, which is a way of running a whisper like, so whisper is an open AI thing. Insanely fast whisper is whisper like, and you give it some audio and it gives you the transcript back within, it says here 31 minutes for 31 minutes of audio, for 150 minutes of audio in about 31 minutes, right? So maybe you've got the MP3 back and you need a transcription. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can implement something where if you already have Insanely Fast Whisper set up and installed and you give it the path, you could do something like podcast transcribe, and it attempts to use Insanely Fast Whisper. That's the plan, is it's going to do things like this. And the way it's going to work is when you build it, you can build it as a .NET global tool and install it. So you can do, eventually we'll be able to do .NET install G for global, and then we'll be able to go .NET.podcast. .NET.podcast or podcasts or whatever we're going to call it. I think we're currently calling it .podcasts, but that's the idea. Whoops. Is you're going to be able to do that. It's going to go up to NuGet. It's going to pull the latest version and install it on your computer, right? Because this eventually, .NET podcast. So I need to change the CS proj, right? Because it's currently podcasts. So I'll do that in a minute. But eventually it's going to go up on NuGet as a file that you can actually run on your computer. So it's going to be completely open source and up on the web. So let's actually do this. Let's do namespace.net podcasts. We'll do a global find and replace. We'll copy that, paste it there, podcast. Replace all of those. There is no way that there's only one. Yeah, there we go. Just need to change all of these manually because my global find and replace didn't work. Podcast. Now this is broken because the includes. Oops. How do we do it? Is it that one? Nope. That one. Oh, I can never remember how to highlight across two lines. Nope. Okay, it doesn't matter. I spent way too long figuring it out. Right, what's the problem now? .NET podcasts. We need to rename that. Do you want to rename? Yep, rename all the things. Cool. So now this is .NET podcast. Right, I then in the CS project it's going to create a root namespace tag. We get rid of that. Fantastic. Now can we still build it? What's the problem? Oh, it's broken, look. Ah, really? Fantastic. Now we're happy. Build it again. You're learning Microsoft Loop. I'm going to have to take a look at Microsoft Loop. Is that a free to use app? And where are the files stored? Is it a global thing? Is it like online? Because that seems pretty useful. I'll have to see about using that. What is it? It wants to create that as a static, right? So I'm just going to do this. Moved namespace. Whoops. Renamed namespace to .NET.podcast. Right. I am going to have to go in a couple of minutes. Let's just push that. That's fine. I'm happy with that. That fixes the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close Rider, because otherwise I will keep making changes. I'm also going to change that wallpaper as well for the next time that I do one of these. So this now should be source.net podcast. Amazing. Right. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to, I'm going to do some dependency injection. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to punch the microphone, but now you know what it feels like. Now you know what it sounds like to get punched in the face by me. We're going to move to dependency injection. We're going to start creating more verbs and actual options for those verbs, so a verb can have options. And we're going to look at writing some tests. That's what we're going to do next time. But I do have to go in a moment, because I'm actually, the whole time over my left hand shoulder there's been this OK symbol, right? I actually will be leaving in a couple of minutes to go help out at my local Andy's Man Club, which is an unofficial supporter. It's not an official supporter of anything. No, it's .co.uk. Apparently I can't type and talk at the same time. I think it's .co.uk. I'm just going to Google it. There we go. So Andy's Man Club is a thing that I support personally. That is a mental health support group for anyone who identifies as male and is over the age of 18 in England, Scotland and Wales. And I think in Northern Ireland at the minute as well. They meet every Monday evening at 7 p.m. except for bank holidays. You can see it there, except for bank holidays. Let me zoom in a little bit. And essentially we just sit and talk, because it is #it is okay to talk, right? It's okay to talk. So whatever's going on, you can always, if you're in the UK, you can go and talk to these folks. It's about mental health. It's about staying physically fit, right? And it's named after a chap who unfortunately took his life a number of years ago. Run by ex-rugby players. So if somebody says anything to you about men and feelings and it being weak or whatever, rugby players go and do this, and those dudes are pretty tough. So yeah, that's Andy there. He yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame what happened with him, but we're doing what we can to help out people who are going through some stuff. If you're in the UK, you can click this button, find your nearest group, partially giving away where I live, but it will find out where you live. It should, realistically, that should have asked me for my location rather than just using it, but it doesn't matter. You can put in a location and it will show you roughly where to go to where you can go. There's also the full club list, so you can actually go, I don't know, I live in Peterborough. Bang, it tells you where they are and how some of them are opening soon. That's what's over my shoulder, and that's what I'm going to be going and doing in a couple of minutes. I actually help out running one of the local to me groups, but whatever it is, folks, please look after yourself. It's a really trite way of saying it, but you really are worth it, right? And it is okay to talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that open, but we'll switch over to a different screen, leave some music running. Remember, please, it's okay to talk, whatever's going on. All right, you all take it easy. I will see you again another time, okay? Just going to switch to my other mouse again because I'm running a crazy setup, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much.